Why do so many startups fail? In short, the same reason why Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany were hammered into the ground in World War II: unrealistic expectations, committing to one thing too many, not able to meet demands, and as always, problems brewing from the senior management. Let's look into these one at a time. 1. Unrealistic expectations. Make no mistake that at the beginning of the war, Hitler's army was dominant. In startup lingo, this basically means that the tech was great. They were fantastic, but as the war moved into stages when the Allied forces began attacking competition from new startups, they were simply second best. Another way this can be looked at is that they simply did not have the numbers to match the Allied forces. Again, in startup lingo, there was simply not enough funding and inability to scale. 2. Continuing from my previous point. Towards the end of the war, Hitler began assuming sole control of the Nazi army. Everything apart from the Luftwaffe was within his control. He gave an order that no army division should retreat. These came in situations when the army was significantly pinned down. While Churchill was focusing on evacuation on a similar front. Churchill was a pragmatist and someone who believed in the strength of his numbers. The lesson from here is that a startup should look into saving as much money as possible and not burn through money. It can end disastrously. 3. Committing to one thing too many. In 1939, Hitler invaded Poland. He opened up a front in Norway and was embroiled in a battle against Great Britain in the English Channel, following France's conquest. He also sent forces to support his weak link, which was Italy in North Africa. At the same time, he made possibly the biggest mistake that cost him the war, opening a front against the Soviet Union. I have seen startups do this time and again, taking on one thing too many. I myself have had problems with this in the past with my startup. 4. Co-founder problems. Every startup has been through this. This is something that is kept from the public eye for the odd gullible person who thinks that startups are rainbows and whistles. Towards the end of the war, Hitler fired almost all of his senior management. In fact, Hermann Göring and Erwin Rommel were the only ones who were not fired from their posts. In hindsight, the WW2 was one of the bloodiest massacres ever and to this day has severe implications on Europe. Greece, Spain, Italy and a few other countries are in deep shit economically. Sometimes it is alright if a startup sinks a boat. In fact, this is something inevitable. However, when you sink a ship, people start noticing. And this is something not desired by founders. You mean that two guys who might have never worked before, with no experience of making tough business decisions, with no financial experience or cash cushion, putting together a product that was never seen and entering a market that doesn't exist, with a brand that no one cares and a business entity with no real process, but still taking on large complex problems do fail often? Yeah, what do you expect? So many startups fail because new and risky ideas are by design failure prone. I worked for a startup factory project within Microsoft, where they assembled some of the best scientists and engineers tasked with building new ideas. There was money, there was experience, there was Microsoft's brand and distribution channels. Despite all that, most ideas never succeeded. For another company, I was managing new venture creation and it was quite hard to push new products despite having large customers for the existing product and the brand name. New ideas fail everywhere with a high probability. If the risk of failure were not there, someone else would have done that already. Startups by design take those ideas that have a slim chance of success. It is not like IBM could not have built an operating system for microcomputers. Just that they rightly guessed it was risky and the market not big. But, it actually turned out to be a huge market due to changing economic conditions and Microsoft ruled the roost. Walmart entered e-commerce late as they believed people were not likely to buy through computers. The internet evolved way too fast for them to react. As a startup founder, you are entering a lonely coast known for tsunamis. You might drown by the huge wave or might actually catch a huge amount of fish that no one else is taking. You are trying to put a completely new concept or a new market and assemble a group of people who might not have worked together. While they might have studied together, working together is a different ball game. There is no process to hold the discipline and no brand to lean on. The cash cushion is not big enough to withstand multiple failures, and the executives might have no experience wading through tough times. There is no real HR process to manage talent and no good financial management. There is no established relationship with customers and no established channels. Product quality is often poor in the early days and customer support not as professional. It is just a miracle that some startups even succeed. Startups that got incredibly lucky being at the right time with the right people succeeded. Most others with similar capabilities died. And many of the startups that die should not have existed in the first place. It might be a feeble attempt by a group of people who might have met at a meetup and decided to try something for a few months. Or a lone ranger trying to build the next big thing. Or some new grads who try something before getting a good job.